exciting start of this event so far. Very good, good atmosphere, good vibes. So it's a good event.
Cool. So let's start with the beginning. I like to always start with the beginning in my panels. So we're talking about wholesale IoT, but to make sure that we all understand what we're talking about, why don't we define what is wholesale IoT? And Yannick, now that your microphone's working, why don't we tell you start us out?
All right, Isabel, thanks for the question. So in Orange, so we've been doing wholesale IoT for, I would say, 10, 15 years. I think the start was really with IoT roaming, where we do buy and sell IoT connectivity in bulk with all other MNOs around the world. And of course, the MVNO business, which created niches. I'm thinking of the likes of Transatel or Cubic, for example, who started really early on this journey. But I think it's moving from this kind of traditional wholesale IoT business. I see two big trends, with one being eSIM, with HGP 3132 coming up this year, being standardized. I think this will really launch and accelerate the eSIM trading. And satellite also coming. But one other trend which I see, because we are MNOs, we think in terms of operator business when we think about wholesale, but what I see as well is a change in some industries. I'm talking about like you take the automotive industry. I think the big brands now are thinking of buying wholesale from our operators for their automotive industries. They buy millions of SIM cards, so that's really changing also the industry and the way we work. And I would say the emergence of mobile private networks also create new needs to buy wholesale for those players to extend coverage. I think what comes to mind is what's happening with the railway industry. You know, they are deploying 5G networks along the tracks. And of course, they need to work with MNOs to have the best possible coverage. So really a lot happening in wholesale IoT.
Okay. Anything to add, anyone, about what is wholesale IoT that Yannick hasn't touched on?
I think, yeah. Nice, I assume. Okay. I think it's definitely something very dramatic change in the industry. The wholesale IoT we see today didn't exist 5 or 10 years ago. A lot of new actors, a lot of institutions that were only buying before now wants to be an active player in the market. And that changed a lot of different dynamics. And I think that's, Yannick nailed it very well. It's started with MVNO and a traditional MVNO business, and now you see a lot of enterprises, global enterprises, starting to have a finger in the game.
Okay, Nasser, I think you wanted to add something.
I was going to say it's become such an integral part of IoT, and I wanted to pause there because we're talking about wholesale IoT, and the confusion with IoT, even to this day, after many decades of being in the industry as a conglomeration of technologies, is like one thing being the same. And with wholesale IoT, is mainly on a connectivity transport layer rather than the services. And without it, you've got no IoT, basically. You've got different ways of transporting the data, and what we're looking to monetize is the data. So I just wanted to make it very clear that it's important, and Cedric mentioned something key, which is enterprises are playing into this. Now enterprises are creating their own SIM cards for their own solutions. That would ride either on an MVNO or an MNO backbone for that matter. So I think it's a very short period that we have to make sure that we don't lose the pie along with oven, for lack of a better word.
Okay, so in my introduction I said there was a lot of roadblocks when it comes to wholesale IoT. So what are these roadblocks? What are the biggest challenges that we face at the moment in that part of the business, Cedric?
Well, as any wholesale business that's starting, what happens is that everybody is doing their own way everywhere. And it comes with usually a strong MNO in one region will dictate how wholesale has to be driven in that region. But every region start to create their own specificities, very distinct way of dealing on the wholesale side. And the same happened with the voice business, same thing happened with the SMS business. And we can see that on the IoT side, it's, we get more and more actors, and new actors coming in don't have a telecom background, and they want clarity. They want to do the business, they have a lot of ideas, they have a lot of money, but they really struggle, okay, why Europe do it this way? Why Asia do it this way? Why Latin America would do another way? Why can't you guys try to give me a unique way, and I can talk to all of you and buy for all of you? I think that's one of the things that we try to do in that group, and what we try to do with the MEF is how can we leverage all the good things we've done on the SMS and the voice, and how can we bring it on the IoT world, and use all this best practice and all this guidance, so then when new players come into a wholesale environment, they don't have to try to decipher what is the mandatory stuff, what is the optional stuff, what is very specific to a specific region, and then, okay, let them grow and flavor, and grow and then build a business from that.
Okay, any other challenges?
Yes, I would add also that, with respect to SMS and voice, but somehow interconnecting players in IoT is slightly more complex because there's many more ways to interconnect. I'm going to the details, but I think that brings also an additional challenges to onboard new players. So some of them will have a deep interconnection to have more control, and some of them will have the slightest possible requirements to just have some interconnection and don't care about control, but have the bare minimum. And I think that's create different flavors in a technical point of view. That makes it difficult. That's something that will be addressed later on in the MEF, the working group, but I still wanted to mention that.
Okay, Nasia?
Yeah, also I would say is we cannot forget the legacy systems that we're dealing with in most organizations. Charles very well mentioned about the integration layer and how complicated it can be when we're trying to integrate both systems and devices. And we're dealing with so many legacy systems that it will take years to upgrade, if they're even upgradable in some cases, that will be easier to integrate. That creates an additional layer of complexity. We have a lot of challenges, but I'm also cognizant of the time and the rest of the discussions. I'll leave it at this.
Yes. What about collaboration? Because it's a big part of the industry, and going forward, I think, is that also an issue when it comes to wholesale IoT? Collaboration? Yeah.
Well, when it comes to collaborations, it goes hand in hand with challenges that we mentioned so far. But I think we're dealing with disparity in the frameworks of each operator, each MVNO, each even enterprise. There is not like a concrete standardized ways of doing things, which minimizes how much we can do around collaboration. Right? So that's one key factor. Standardization is another key factor that we need to look into. So you've got frameworks that they are, I would say, siloed within an organization, and you have standardization that is also a lot of disparity. But one key element when it comes to collaboration is you've got external factors and internal factors when you're looking at IoT, right? You've got the external factors, which is facing towards the services that you're offering to a customer, and you have the internal factors, which is like the frameworks, it's the silos within the organization, is the upskilling and the understanding of the technology throughout the departments, even collaboration within, from department to department, working and understanding the technologies and how to be done is key. So the external factors is when it comes to the frameworks, when it comes to the business models, to standardized ways of doing business, even when it comes to pricing models and rate cards and so on and so forth. And then the internal factors, upskilling, understanding, working together as a teams cohesively so we can produce something that is not only monetizable, but repeatable.
Okay. And Cedric, you mentioned earlier when you talked about some of the challenges and the importance of standardizing wholesale IoTs. We have to standardize CDRs, APIs, some of the processes. Why is it so important to do that?
The standardization is to give the same level of playing, the same playing level to everybody. And also going back to a bit on collaboration, as much as we need to empower the new player coming in, we need also to consider the MNO point of view. So in the past, okay, all these assets that are being traded in a wholesale, the MNO were fully in control of it. And now they're losing that control, And in some instances, okay, some networks have no idea, okay, this IMSI is in my network, who is actually using it? And they go to the roaming partner and say, oh, that's not me, I sold it to this MVNO. That MVNO said, that's not me, because I sold it to this other MVNO. And that MVNO said, that's not me, I sold it to an IoT aggregator. And all this chain actually has to get a bit more transparency, so then everybody, I mean, the MNO as a supplier actually clear that nobody's going to abuse their assets. At the same time, making it clear, make sure that all new players know that they're not here to, pardon my French, okay, that's to screw the different players.
Okay.
I mean, that's...
That was English.
By the way, I asked Cedric the question, but I wanted to ask the question to Charles. So I'm obviously getting tired. Charles, anything to add to what Cedric said?
Yes, definitely. So I like to see standards, even westernization is a strong word in the context we're trying to do. So let's call it guidelines or framework as a common language for everyone to talk and have a common understanding how to do the business, how to integrate, how to interact between one another. And I think having a common language will definitely help the whole business, benefit everyone to play and have more players in the game. And I think removing barriers make more new players, and I want to believe in a day that's also part of my titles, because it brings innovation. So new players bringing new ideas, bringing their innovation and better ideas for the end consumer. However, and I think this is the point we said, like if you have more players, you have another risk is that you have dodgy players, or you lose control. And I think to the point of Cedric, that's why also in the work that we're doing, we also shall enforce the KYC, or it's not the end consumer, but know who's using the IMSI, and that's the point of Cedric.
Okay. Charles, Yannick, sorry.
Yeah, I think you are touching on a key point here. We talk about cooperation, and I believe cooperation is based on trust. And trust, of course, does require a level of transparency. Which level, of course, needs to be discussed. But to give you an example, we've built permanent roaming agreements with 335 partners, so mobile network operators in the world. So that's about half of our partners we have globally. And what we tell them is we are going to use a specific network code, the 901, ITU 901 code, so it shows transparency of intentions. When we send the traffic on this code, it's because it's permanent roaming, it's M2M or IoT traffic. So we are open with our partners about what we are doing, and this allows discussion about value sharing. How do we share fairly the value between the visited network, the partner, and us? Because of course, if one has got the feeling of being ripped off, I would say, to be more polite. Of course, collaboration doesn't work in the long term, and we are trying to build long-term IoT partnerships, and this requires some level of transparency.
Okay, cool. Just before Nassia, anyone in the audience has questions or comments, or would like to have some clarification on some of the things that were discussed? No? Not? I don't think so, not so far. Okay, what did you want to say, Nassia?
I want to just highlight that the operators have been in the midst of a perfect storm for quite some time. And I think we tend to criticize as an industry the operators because they're so big, they have so many people, so many departments, the right hand might not know what the left hand is doing, and so on and so forth. But we really need to recognize how challenging it is to move such an organization. Not only from the technology side of things, from the people side of things, from the regulation side of things. And personally, I get frustrated with, all the hearsay without an actual solution. And we here at MEF, at least, we're trying to create some kind of cohesive environment of how can we collaborate and cooperate between enterprises, the smaller players like myself, that I don't have a lot of people to support me, the bigger players like an operator, and the technology suppliers who are giving us the technology to run the operations in the end of the day. So I think we ought to recognize that.
And thank you for the very good segue for my next question, or my next topic is, at MEF, through the recommendation of Cédric and the support of Charles and many others, Orange as well, we started a working group called Best Practices for Wholesale IoT. And maybe Cédric is the lead of this group, or working group. Tell us more about it.
Well, the working group started as actually the interesting discussion we had where we realized that the wholesale IoT didn't have the same level of maturity as other services like A2P and voice. And so, okay, how can we work and how can we fix it? Then, so we look at the MEF and we look at Isabel, who is actually very humbling, not sharing, she's actually a very good contributor and very good support for us. How can we use the MEF as a forum for us to get as many voices as possible, see, okay, how we can drive some kind of best practice to the industry. So when new players or existing players want to look at how to improve the communication between them and the different suppliers and different customers, that they can look at the MEF and see that there is documentation available and they can use it to leverage and grow their ecosystem using that. So what we've done is a huge task, so we tried to cut it into a lot of different small pieces. So we're closing one, which is a CDR, what the CDR should look like in IoT. And there's a lot of different items, okay, that we want to go through down the line. Definitely for us, okay, this working group is really good because we give voice to, we realize a lot of different IoT players in the MEF. And they start to come in and really start to share about their experience, what they want to see as part of this working group, what they want to see in terms of results. And it's really good, okay, to see that everybody had the same idea, but nobody was really, didn't know, okay, how to do it and how to go for it. And the other thing that the GSMA is not looking at it at this stage, because a lot of the new players in IoT are not telco. They're not coming from the GSMA world. They're coming from a very IoT point of view, and they are using the telecom, but they don't have a very strong telecom knowledge, or they want to get too much involved with the GSMA.
Okay, and I can tell you this group is moving fast, so we created it, at the end of last 2024. We've already written the first document on best practices for CDRs, which is ready, will be ready after this event to review and to approve. And then after that, we're going to move on to the next phase of the working group, which we will look at APIs, and we will also be looking at making sure the best practice document is taken on board by the key players, and the small, the large, the medium players, to help the wholesale IoT business run more smoothly. Anything else that I've missed or that we've missed that we wanted to share with the audience today?
I think to the audience or anyone else, it's just come and join the working group, help us to define what you think should be done, or at least to come and see what we're doing and what we're working on. It gets you some insight of what's happening. But come in there and expose your ideas and participate. That's what I would suggest to everyone.
Because you can come and learn as well. I mean, some of the participants in the working group aren't offering IoT yet, but they're thinking about it. They want to see what it means, what they need to do. So you can come and learn and also come and share your views and create the future of the wholesale IoT. Anything?
I say we welcome this work group because for us we are trying to simplify as much as possible. At the end of the day we are businesses, so if we can trim unnecessary costs from our business, we want to do it. Complexity is costly, so if you are able to standardize, to agree together as an industry on what is the best way forward and try to standardize on one way to do things, that's better for everybody, and that's especially better for our bottom lines, so let's do it.
Okay.
I will summarize all this as have a say or no complain.
Very good one. I'm on board with that. So to close us on a bang, I like to do fun things. I'll give you the opportunity to give one last message to the audience. What would it be if you could tell them anything? It could be anything. It could be come to my party tonight. It could be anything.
I don't have a party tonight.
Oh, true.
I'm open for any, but I would say participate. Yeah.
Okay, Sal?
So be curious and come and work with us.
Yannick?
Okay, a keyword would be cooperation, but cooperation with MNOs together, cooperation with MVNOs as well, who are a big part of this wholesale IoT world.
And Nassia?
Well, the good ones are taken, so I would say be open-minded.
Cool. Great. So if there's no more questions, thank you very